6 o'clock. Okay, while there's a lull in the conversation, I'm going to interrupt to call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order. If the clerk would call the roll, please.
Ammons. Anderson. Beckett.
Here.
Benzel.
Here.
Betts.
Here.
Carter. Coert.
Present.
Dennett.
Here.
Gladney. James.
Here.
Jay.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Knott.
Here.
Kurtz.
Here.
Langenheim.
Here.
McGinty.
Here.
Michaels.
Here.
Mosier. Nudo.
Here.
O'Connor. Richards.
Here.
Rosales.
Here.
Sapp.
Here.
Schrader. Smucker. Weibel.
Here.
Wysocki.
Here. We do have a quorum present, so we will move to the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Betts, seconded by Mr. Kurtz. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Rosales?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Langenheim. Any corrections, changes? Mr. Beckett?
Ordinarily, we would have a motion that placed us into a committee of the whole, and I didn't see that on the agenda.
Right.
We don't need to do that. Okay, let's make sure.
We are going to delete we're going to delete under the Environment and Land Use section item E1. Is there anything else? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public participation. The only request that I've had is from Lisa Feig.
I just simply wanted to say that Triad Shredding is present at this meeting if there are any questions regarding our application for zoning amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will declare public participation closed. We'll move on to communications from the board. Mr. Weibel.
I have two items tonight. One is that on your desk you see an email message from Mr. Samuel Smucker indicating he's going to resign from the county board effective midnight tonight. I would confirm this also with a phone call I had with him earlier this morning too, right before the email that he sent to me. So that position will be open effective midnight tonight. The other item is that Mr. Matt Gladney called me, and he is very sick. He's got the worst cold that I've heard in a long time.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. First area up tonight is the Environment and Land Use Committee. The first item is the Recreation and Entertainment License for the Egyptian Collectors Association, Inc. Motion by Mr. Jones, seconded by Mr. James. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The next is zoning case 671-AM-10. This is a request to amend the zoning map to change the district designation from Ag 2 to B4, general business.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. James.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Jones. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the draft habitability ordinance.
I move adoption of the draft habitability ordinance.
Mr. Betts.
Second.
And Mr. Langenheim. Discussion. Mr. James.
Well, when we discussed this in our little peer group, there were some issues that were discussed, and we wanted to make certain that the life safety issues, if they were called into the zoning office, would be addressed, and I think Mr. Hall said they would be.
Yeah, with the recent amendment to the nuisance ordinance, those are part of the nuisance ordinance, and they would be our highest priority.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Next item is the rural public transportation. We have 6 items related to this. We have Rita Black here from the RPC and 2 representatives from Chris, right? So let's start with the first of these, which is a board resolution authorizing the application for public transportation financial assistance.
Move adoption.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Betts, seconded by Mr. Kurtz. Discussion. Mr. James?
I've asked this question before, and I guess I just want to clear it up. Reading all this, of course, I'm no lawyer. I'm trying my best, but if things fall apart and some of the grant money doesn't come through, is there any estimate of what the county would be liable for?
Someone want to respond? Sure.
Yes, sir. I'm Amy Marchand. I'm the CEO of Chris Rural Transit, and that's a very fair question. And the answer is that through all the paperwork that you have before you, you'll find several references to Chris taking the responsibility. We've actually taken out a line of credit specifically for this program for $600,000 just to demonstrate the dedication to the project. We do have 25 years experience of doing this exact project with Illinois Department of Transportation, and never one dime has fallen on the county that we participated with.
And I have a couple of follow-ups, and I don't know
Go ahead.
if this is the appropriate time, but it's sort of all lumped together, so if you can't answer it now,
Sure.
that's fine. But if the county, let's say that the cost somehow would come back to the county, if it would down the road, there is an option that where the county can opt out of the program, or no?
Yes, there is, absolutely.
Okay. And then with the opt-out option, I read where that the personnel would be labor, union labor. So if there was an opt-out clause on the county's part and the contract still had some remaining time to it, would there be any type of charge to the county on those union contracts that we might incur?
That's also a very fair question. There is no union involved in this process. The special warranty addresses many similarities to what a collective bargaining unit or a union would participate in, but if there were expenses, it would be allocated out of the Illinois Department of Transportation funding. And one thing protects another in this paperwork. So with having acceptance of the grant, you also have the assurance that the funding stands to facilitate payment for those 60-day requirements to notify staff if there would be a layoff.
I'm just one that every time someone tells me something, that's fine, and I trust people at their word, but when I've been in court, the judge always tells me, what's the paper say that you signed? So I just want to make sure that, I'm understanding it correctly, and thank you for your response.
Sure. No, they're good questions. They're questions I thought you probably would ask, so I had to study.
Well, that would have been Al. I just took them up.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Next piece of this is the acceptance of special warranty for application to the Small Urban and Rural Program. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Weibel, seconded by Mr. Betts. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Aye. Motion carries. Third is the IDOT and FTA Assistance Programs Joint Certification and Assurances for the grantees. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. James, seconded by Mr. Weibel. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 4 is the ordinance to provide public transportation. Motion by Mr. Langenheim, seconded by...
I join it.
Hold on. Mr. Richards, you want to second this?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I saw your hand up 3 times earlier, so. Okay. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Beckett.
Yes.
Benzel. Yes. Betts.
Yes.
Coert. Yes. Denitz. No. Gladney. James.
Yes.
Jay.
No.
Jones.
No.
Knott. Kurtz.
Yes.
Langenheim.
Yes.
McGinty.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Mosier.
No.
Nudo.
Yes.
O'Connor.
Yes.
Richards.
Yes.
Rosales.
Yes.
Sapp. Weibel.
Yes.
Wysocki.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item is the intergovernmental agreement between Chris Rural Mass Transit District and Champaign County.
Move adoption.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Betts, seconded by Mr. James. Is there discussion? You want a roll call on this as well? Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last but not least, the bylaws of the Champaign County Rural Transit Advisory Group. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. James, seconded by Mr. Rosales. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. We're now at the top of page 2. This is the request to amend the zoning ordinance to implement land resource management policies 4.1.6, 4.3.1 to 4.3.4 as part of the fiscal year 2010 RPC planning contract.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Kurtz, seconded by Mr. Rosales. Discussion. Mr. Nudo.
I'm going to ask that this body consider looking at these in greater depth in study sessions and joint session with the zoning board. And I ask that this become a regular way of looking at anything that's having to do with the land use management changes that are coming out of the land use management plan. For one, I'm uncomfortable in a 156-page document that we have to read over a 4-day period, that we spend enough time on it. This is absolutely essential. I brought this up over a month ago. I think I brought it up twice. And I think it's essential that the planners make a presentation on this, just like we had the Nursing Home Board of Directors, and we literally went clause by clause on it. This is something that we're going to take a look at and implement for a long time. Other boards can change it, but it takes some doing getting it changed. So I would like to see us use that for that purpose, and just start scheduling study sessions. I don't care if they start in November or with the new board, but allow this to be separated from Committee of the Whole and allow it to be a single issue. I could see that if they're related items, that they be all in one package like these three, or the previous two that we were looking at, but I would like to see this occur on a regular basis.
Mr. McGinty.
In a broader sense, I think that issues like this, as Mr. Nuno has alluded to, warrant perhaps the lost art here of utilizing study sessions. We have not done a lot of that. We perhaps should have done that with Olympian Drive rather than go through hours of a committee of the whole or full board meeting and spend all that time there rather than a study session specific to that issue. So I would be supportive of the concept that Mr. Nuno has put forward in utilizing study sessions for these items that require more study.
Mr. Weibel?
Well, I mean, study sessions cost us money. So I think it's very appropriate to have a study session on anything if we think we need to spend extra time. But there are certainly items that concern LRMP which will not take any time at all. So I don't think it's a good idea to say we're automatically going to have a study session on items that concern LRMP because it'd be expensive to the taxpayers. And I think that we need to be concerned about that.
Mr. James?
Mr. Weibel raised a good point. I hadn't thought of that either, but I think when it comes to some of this about the farmland and some other issues that are going to affect, people for years to come, that we really need to look at it and have that open dialogue. And I would almost suggest that we wait until after the election so everybody's on the same page so we don't end up with someone saying, well, I wasn't here and I didn't get that information, so it's only another month.
Mr. Kurtz?
Mr. Hall, could you just give us just a quick overview on why this is really not a complicated issue on this motion, please?
Well, this particular motion is a very mundane item. It adds some new requirements to the ordinance based strictly on the policies, but we were just talking this afternoon about how our ordinance is now really, it is complicated. It is a complicated ordinance, and anytime you amend something that's complicated, even if it's a simple amendment, there is some complexity there. So this is truly probably the simplest amendment that we could have, but I can appreciate that, everything about the ordinance now is complicated.
Mr. Mosier?
John, I had a call from an auctioneer yesterday. It's going to sell some land west of Champaign in Mahomet Township, and there's 13 acres and a building site on it. He said he could not get an answer based on 13 acres of pasture being a best prime farmland. These people want to sell that and they want to separate it off, and I think that's carrying this to an extreme. And if we can't answer that question right out the gate without a whole lot of research, I think we're creating a monster with this thing.
Well, in fact, we answered that question. We said that under the current ordinance, that would require a variance, but in the text amendment that was deleted tonight, we had included a provision that would have provided for that. That's the answer he got.
Now we got to get a variance?
Until the ordinance is amended, yeah. And actually, it's not so much the pasture because there's horses there, that is clearly agriculture. The farmstead is sizable and it's set off back from the road. It exceeds the 3-acre maximum. It's about 6 acres. And it was just a happy coincidence that call came in after we had already proposed that particular part of that previous amendment. But that can't take effect until it goes through the public hearing process and is adopted.
Mr. O'Connor?
There's no provision in any of our rules where your common sense can prevail and you can go ahead and give them the okay on something this seemingly this simple.
I actually look for those things as much as I can, Mr. O'Connor, but people want a little more certainty than my common sense.
Anything, Mr. Nudo?
Do I need to make a motion to that effect then? That this be placed under special study sessions with the zoning board and all revisions to the land use management plan? So that the planner can make a presentation and we can go through these new policies and new ordinances. I know Greg brought up a number of times, we're spending $1,215 is what we're spending with the special study session. You know, that's what it costs for us to do that, in addition to the costs for CAT and others. But what we've got here is we've got something that's going to be on the books, and who's going to pay for these other enforcement issues and codes, and who's going to do it. We need to kind of talk those things through. So I'd make that a motion. Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a motion on the floor to postpone, defer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not defer, but place it under special study sessions in the future, all of these changes.
That's a deferral.
Okay. Which has been seconded by Mr. Dennett's. Is there discussion on the motion to defer? We'll start over here, Mr. Beckett.
Well, I won't support the motion because of the way it's phrased, because it suggests that every item that involves any matter relating to the land resource management plan has to go to study session regardless of how simple it is, so the motion is much too broad. It seems to me that that would be an action that should be required to be taken on a per item basis because there's something about that item that causes some need for broader study. So I won't support the motion the way it's currently stated.
Weibel.
Ms. Busey, clarify what approximate cost to have another county board meeting per month? What's the cost per meeting?
They just said it. It's if everyone comes, the per diem is $1,215.
Thank you.
Mr. Betts.
I wanted to echo what Mr. Beckett said. I don't see the justification for deferral on the items that we have before us, but this is extremely broad. Every picayune minor thing is going to have to be consolidated into a special study session. I think that really kind of defeats the process. I think people should be able to, at a regular ELEC meeting, committee of the whole, address most of these issues. On issues of great substance where we know there's division, I don't have a problem with it. But most of these are not terribly substantive.
I want to ask Mr. Hall, just to be clear, what's being asked of the committee of the whole with item 2?
Item 2 does a couple of things. Number one, it adds the limit on the use of best prime farmland for rural residential overlays. That's very clear when you look in the policy. It's 3 plus 3 acres per 40 acres, not to exceed 12 acres in total. And we've tried as best we can to fashion this in language that could go straight to the ZBA. The other thing this does is it incorporates into the required findings for a special use permit specific policies about if it's on best prime farmland, the site with improvements is well suited overall. Now, that's language that this board has dealt with a lot, but it's never found its way into the ordinance. It also adds a condition about a finding that public services are adequate to support the proposed special use and that infrastructure is adequate. I believe those things are, in fact, non-controversial. I believe that they are common everyday concerns of the board. I'll agree that it doesn't necessarily have to be into the special use criteria because the zoning board already deals with those things. But that being said, if they're already dealing with it, why not add it as a criteria so that it's made very clear? And it does go directly back to the policies. Now, and if I could add one more thing, the following text amendment is much more complicated, although at its essence, it just adds a special use permit to the RRO. That's simple enough, and I would hope that no one would object to that. But the standard conditions that are proposed are, in fact, the kinds of things that absolutely merit a study session. So number 3, if I had my request, some of that would be a study session, but I firmly believe some of it doesn't. This one that is before you right now, I'll admit it's a very simple thing, and yet it seems complicated. This board has never seen the findings for a special use permit, and so it's the first time you've seen them, and now we're proposing to go from 6 to 9, but again, those things go a direct line back to the policies. It should be easy enough to prove, but many times we find things that should be simple enough to prove aren't, so I can appreciate the concern.
Anything else? Mr. Denitz?
I think to support what Al has proposed, I think all you have to do at any one environment and land use meeting is poll the county board members in attendance, ask them to explain what's on the agenda in each thing. I bet 50% of the people in this room couldn't do it. And that's exactly why we need to do what he's proposing.
Mr. McGinty?
I sat next to Chris for the first couple years that I was on the board on ELUC, and it was pretty confusing. It was the most confusing committee that I've served on. And while I appreciate the concept that Alan has put forth, I understand the value in taking some of those items that are more clear and not going to a study session for cost reasons and for efficiency reasons when not necessary. At the same time, I really agree with Chris on the fact that these are complicated enough that I'll bet that his percentages are pretty close. And that's a pretty important thing. If we are voting on land use issues, it's one of the A's that Mr. Beckett and I talk about. This one's acres. That's always controversial. That's always confusing. That we always seem to have splits on. And I think that there's value in taking study sessions when, and John, I love it when you are, when you make the strong recommendations like you did. Number 2, you feel that one way. On number 3, you feel another way. That helps us a lot. And so making use of a study session when appropriate, I wouldn't hesitate for a second, because what would come out would be an informed decision.
Ms. Michaels?
If I missed something, I thought that Mr. Nudo suggested that we combine several of them together in that study session.
That's correct.
Mr. James?
Well, I'd like to make a friendly amendment to Al's motion that, based on the conversation we're having here, that anything that's on the agenda, if the group feels that it needs more study, that it go to a study session. But if it's a straightforward item that is clearly explained in our agenda and everybody has the grasp of it, that it moves on for discussion that night and gets voted up or down.
Mr.
And I
Beckett?
probably didn't phrase that right, but would you clean that up for me?
I want to move a substitute motion to refer items 2 and 3 to a special study session to be scheduled by the chair, and delete all the other stuff about every other amendment. Just these 2 particular items. I move these 2 particular items. That's my substitute motion.
Was that yours, Mr. Miller? Okay, motion's been, we have a substitute motion to put items 2 and 3 on a study session. Is there discussion on the substitute motion? Mr. Nudo?
So what you're suggesting then, Steve, is that there is no regular plan for this to occur, that this would just be on the basis of these two particular issues?
Yes, and my thought was, you ought to have a study session, see what happens at the study session in terms of the complexity. It will help you measure, I think, whether or not you need them in the future. I just think it's too broad. You're actually making a rules change to me if you're saying everything that involves LRMP must go to a study session. I don't think you can do that. I question the validity of that. But taking these two items that are currently on our agenda and moving them to a study session gives us an opportunity to see how it works.
Is there an invasion coming? Mr. James?
And I'm going to ask this question, Steve. So what you're saying, and I guess I grasp that these two will be moved, see how it goes, and then if the need is there, if something else is put on our agenda sometime down the road, someone can still ask for a study session if they think the need is there. Okay, that's simple English.
Okay. Can I expand your motion just a tad? Since we've already deferred the first of these LRMP items, that we include that in the... Okay.
I accept that as a friendly amendment. Who's my secretary?
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Nudo?
I'll go along with that. I'll reserve the right, though, to reintroduce it as something more permanent after we see what happens here. I just keep going back to the fact that these changes are permanent and have long-term effects on land use, and we agreed when we first did the goals and policies that we were going to take it slow and that we were going to look at these things very carefully. And I am not comfortable, after reading in a three-day session, of reading all what I have to read and knowing what I have to know about these issues that are more important. I just want to take the time. I don't see what the problem is in trying to make it more clear to everybody. Once these changes are made, it's pretty hard to undo.
Mr. Weibel and then Mr. Kurtz.
I want to point out a comment on Mr. Noodle's comment that our ordinances are made by us. We can unmake them too. They are not permanent.
Mr. Kurtz.
I think a study session obviously is going to be warranted here, at least on number 1. We can add number 2 and 3. But my suggestion would be to make the study session after the November election. We're going to have some new members. They're going to need explanation on this entire LRMP as well. And I think if we bring them into it, whoever's left on the board after the election, last man standing, or whatever you want to call it, we should have the study session after the election so we can bring in all the new members and bring them up to speed.
Mr. Beckett.
I'm happy if the seconder will join me to move that the study session will be in January or thereafter.
If we could stipulate that Mr. Beckett had to attend all these just for some kind of pain and suffering or something we've all went through. Yeah, whatever. I agree with that.
Okay.
Was that second?
He's kidding. For what it's worth, let me just add my 2 cents into this. I really think that these 3 items that we were looking at tonight really do require some additional attention. And I think this is probably a good way to evaluate and to assess what Mr. Nudo is suggesting, and also to deal with Mr. Beckett's position that these issues may require this, but maybe not every issue regarding land resource management planning requires this. My only concern, and I heard it expressed already regarding the cost of a study session at some other time than in conjunction with the committee of the whole meeting, is that, our past experience with study sessions, our track record is not that great. And I would think that one of the things we really need to assess is first of all, obviously, we're finding a time which may not fall into our ordinary meeting cycle. And secondly, attendance at those meetings sometimes falls short of the mark. So if the purpose is to, devote some time for everyone to get on board with this, then everybody who needs to get on board better be here. End of my speech. Okay, so, Mr. Dennett.
One last comment. I keep hearing about the money that it takes to have a study session. We spent somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 on the LRMP, if memory serves me. I don't think $1,200 is too much to worry about once in a while to tidy up something that costs that kind of money. And we're talking about people's lives that own this property. And I just don't think you can put a price tag on that.
Well said.
And nobody worried about it when we spent that $300,000 too much.
Yeah, usually did.
Okay. So the motion we have now is to commit to a study session, items 1, 2, and 3, under item E of our agenda this evening.
Point of order, I saw that Mr. Nudo accepted that. Did his seconder accept that?
Oh, yes, Mr. Dennett said
So then
yes.
that's the motion that's on the floor.
Right. In January. Is that? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And those opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next item has to do with coal mining. What you have in your packet is a memo from the zoning director regarding the last opinion we've had from the Attorney General's office, which says that there is no county jurisdiction over surface mining. So essentially, this is point of information. Mr. Kurtz.
I requested that Mr. Weibel, our chair, request an updated opinion from the Attorney General. This is a 15-year-old opinion, and we have a new Attorney General, and we might have a new opinion. So I would ask, has the chair asked the Attorney General or State's Attorney for an updated opinion?
Hold on. Oh, okay. Mr. Mosier.
Well, I'd like to say on my behalf and Mr. Knott's behalf and Mr. O'Connor's behalf that all of that coal mine is in District 4, and I haven't had a complaint from a landowner down there, and I think I know 90% of them that have any objection to going along with a state law to handle this, and I really don't think Champaign County's got a whole lot of business in coming up with another resolution or another piece of the zoning ordinance to control a coal mine in Ayers Township. And that's all that's involved down there. And at this point, I'm not sure it's going to happen. Those people don't know for sure if they're ever going to get into Champaign County. It's a Vermilion County deal, and if they want to go along with it, that's their problem. But I've got some people down there that own some pretty valuable farmland that don't need another thorn in their side when it comes to making a decision about whether they're going to sell their mineral rights or they're not to somebody else. And at this point, I think it's really premature for this county to get involved in this project because of it's just 4 sections. And it's between 49 and the Vermilion County line that's really affected by the maps I've seen on this, and I don't think we need to stick our nose in it at this point.
Mr. Kurtz?
I can understand Mr. Mosier's concern for his constituents, but we do represent the entire county, not just our districts. I've talked with officials of Madison County, Montgomery County, and I've done some research, as I have in the past, on other issues. We're talking more than just land issue here. We're talking water issues, poisoning of waters and waterways that have happened in Madison and Montgomery counties. Also the fact that the coal mine will not give us an answer as to where the 500,000 to 2 million gallons of water, drinking water, will be used to clean that coal on a daily basis. And I'd like to know if they're going to pipe it out of the Muhammad Aquifer or where they're going to get this water from that is going to be toxified by cleaning of coal. And I think we need just to have an opinion from the Attorney General. There's no action being taken here.
Mr. Mosier?
St. Joe's the closest town that's got anything to do with Illinois water and the aquifer. I don't know where they get their water down there, but it's not out of the Muhammad Aquifer. And I just get tired of this board meddling around in a little area that is in the southeast corner of this county with 4 or 5 property owners, with wasting time of the Attorney General or anybody else getting involved in this when the state regulates this all over the state. I don't know that there's a county in this state. Vermilion County's never made any effort to regulate coal mining. It's been going on over there forever. They don't have zoning and they don't worry about this stuff.
Anyone else? There is nothing on the agenda for action. Okay, so we're going to move on. You have at your desks the monthly report for September. Chair will entertain a motion to receive it and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by James, seconded by Rosales. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there any other business? The chair has nothing new to add. And let's see, what we need for the consent agenda is item B.
These two.
Okay. Which?
D3 and D6.
Oh.
Wasn't.
D6 is the only one.
D6.
I have 3 is having.
Yeah, 3 has.
Okay. Okay. So D6 is also on the consent agenda. Okay. That's our portion.
So Jim, when we get to you, I'm going to have you sit where I sit, and I'll get back down here, okay? What's that? Why don't you come over, Jim? Come over, Barbara, can we have your seat?
Yeah.
Are you, sir? Good evening. We have the project update on the courthouse exterior clock and bell tower renovation project. I'll entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
So by Jay, second by Kurtz. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Alan, you have your physical plant monthly reports. Anything specific?
Yes, I'd just like to point out on page 138, 139, we now have our first months of billing for the Integris gas contract, so we're starting to track that. We don't anticipate seeing any changes immediately with our pricing because they just set the price for natural gas as per contract. Hopefully, as we move further into the heating season, we will start to see substantial savings.
Questions? Entertain a motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
Moved by Betts, second by Rosales. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Update on the design build of the coroner physical plant maintenance county storage facility.
Yes, today was the final day for answering all questions for addendum number 2 was submitted to our potential bidders, and we're anticipating our bid opening next Tuesday on the 12th at 2 p.m. It's moving along.
Any questions? Mr. James?
How many firms do you think are going to bid?
We are sending addendums to 8 at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Update on the Ilias roof project.
It is currently out on the streets now for bids. Next Tuesday will be our pre-bid meeting at the building, and bid opening will be on October the 19th.
Mr. James?
I saw the ad in the newspaper. You're going back to regular shingles.
That's correct. Well, that's what's on the 1971.
Right. I mean, but there was no consideration given to go into the new style metal roofs on that?
It was too expensive to fit into our budget at this time.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Update on the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant.
We have just received a packet from the Regional Planning Commission. We have received the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant for a total value of $60,000 plus or minus a little bit more. It will take us a little bit of time to gear up and get underway, and we will start relamping, delamping, and changing light fixtures in this entire facility, along with occupancy sensors, timers, and storage closets. So that's a project that's going to take our physical plant most of the winter to complete, which I believe it's February, March completion date.
Any other questions? All right. We asked Jim Page to come and give us an update on the activity that we've had at his organization, Ilias, has had at the old nursing home site. Look at Mr. Bensel, and he and I still remember the day when we met with Jim Page and we said, what? Yes, this could be very good. This could be very good. I remember that distinctly. So why don't you let us know what's going on?
Okay, thank you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jim Page. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, or ILEAS. It has been 3 years, actually August 23rd on my birthday, 2007. This board took a leap of faith. You know, at the time you were embroiled in the new nursing home and had the old nursing home out there, and most of you had never heard of ILEAS, and we came in here and made our pitch, and I want to thank Steve and the Facilities Committee, the board chair, and others that supported us. Deb, Alan, and the rest of your staff have been wonderful to us. It's been a really great relationship, so I appreciate that. When I started in 2004, when ILEAS really started, I was the only contractor. We're all contractors, the only staff person. We now have 70 full, part-time, and hourly staff people around the state and here at the facility. Our growth has been dramatic. Since we opened in June of 2008 after the remodeling, we've run 10,000 people through 400 different training events and different meetings and that sort of thing, bringing people in from all over the Midwest. So it's, as you see, there should be a report in your packets on the increase each year. We get more and more folks. We had another 80 or 90 there today, so it just keeps growing. We now manage law enforcement grants for local law enforcement agencies in Illinois, all the emergency management grants, all the public works and county highway, homeland security grants for the state, and all the Illinois medical emergency response grants that the state of Illinois has. Since we took over at the training center, we've processed over $100 million in homeland security grants. It's really, you know, we've kind of, as government, especially state governments, collapsing in their capacity to manage stuff, we've kind of grown to fill that void because it's easier to contract with an agency and do contractors instead of hiring staff. So we've kind of picked up a lot of grant management for the state. So timing for us, the partnership with you guys has been phenomenal. We now have 14 agencies that either are sublessees, have subscriptions to meeting space, or storage in the facility. So that's been a really great cost offsetter for us. And one thing that's not in your packet I wanted to let everybody know, since June of 2008 when we moved in, we have paid local governments for different contracts, including Champaign County and local businesses, $4.5 million in various services that we've bought from them. We've run $2.5 million in payroll, and we've done a survey here recently of over 600 of our attendees and determined that they've spent over $438,000 just themselves in gas, restaurants, and shopping, and that sort of stuff when people come in from out of town. So the total economic impact since June of 2008 has been approximately $7.25 million to Champaign County's economy. So that's pretty, I take pride in that. That's pretty good. We're not one of the big boys, but, you know, it's something we never had before. As far as the future goes, we've engaged architect, mechanical engineers to take a look at what it would take to finish remodeling the 71 addition. As you know, or if you don't, we've remodeled the 71 addition, the main S wing, the service support wing, and the A wing, and the B and C wings we kind of left alone. And our growth is so much that we need that space now. So we're looking at remodeling the C and B wings and seeing if we can find some funds for that. Also, we're looking at possibly a $400,000 grant we've applied for to get a new generator system, electrical upgrades, which the building needs pretty bad. In fact, we're in the middle of negotiations, actually not negotiations, we're putting the finishing touches on an agreement with Carl Hospital to take the entire C wing and turn it into a medical simulation learning lab. Pardon me. And it's going to be a proof of concept pilot project at this point. If it goes the way we think it's going to go and the way Carl thinks it's going to go, it'll end up being a regional asset for all of East Central Illinois for medical facilities. So that's going to be a really good marriage there. I think we're going to be bringing in some more folks from around the area to come into Champaign County and spend a little money. So another thing you're going to hear more of is the and I'll shut up here, take questions, is the ILEAS Foundation. We've recently formed a 501c3 ILEAS Foundation to, say this right, it's organized to promote law enforcement education training and to provide equipment to law enforcement agencies that grants won't pay for. The foundation is going to be more and more of a part of our organization, so you'll be hearing more about that as we grow in the future. And that's really kind of it. And in closing, again, I want to reiterate the great partnership that we've had. ILEAS has paid, including this lease amendment that you're considering tonight, $3.9 million to Champaign County. So, Alan, I want to thank you and your staff for making us happy over there and keeping everything going. And Deb, I appreciate all your help and all the support as well.
Mr.
All the rest of the staff.
Jim, thanks a lot. Outstanding report. It's been
Thank
a great,
you.
Again, relationship. I think the things that you guys are doing over there are great. A lot of people haven't had the opportunity to see the inside of the remodel, and at some point in time, if the facility committee or someone could be given an opportunity to come over there and do a tour, I think that would be outstanding.
Absolutely. Anybody, anytime.
It's been about a year ago, maybe. The other thing that I would comment on, too, is the amount of resources that you have. It's not only the facility and what's in the facility and your people that you're bringing in and training, but I drove through the lot the other day and was just amazed by the amount of resources that are provided to the ILEAS agreement, and those resources available to all kinds of services across the state of Illinois. And wondered if you just comment on that for a few minutes on deployment and how that gets deployed out and a lot of the things that we see sitting over there and what it's used for.
Well, you'll see as you drive by or around the facility, you'll see a lot of gray, steel gray trailers and trucks. That's all the equipment belonging to the Illinois Medical Emergency Response Team. They have 800 volunteers around the state, 5 staff people, and a portable hospital on wheels, basically a MASH unit. They can take those trailers and go anywhere in the state and set up a field hospital if there's some sort of a disaster, localized disaster. Most of that stuff you see out there is theirs. However, we've got incident management trailers. We've got armored vehicles. I've got 6,000 radiation detectors sitting in the facility we're getting ready to send out to law enforcement and fire agencies all over the state. We just bought 450 mobile data computers for $3 million. So, I mean, we've been really a lot, and all that stuff comes to us. It comes into the building because we're required to inventory it, barcode it, and identify it before we ship it out. So it's quite an operation. Anybody that wants to come by and check out what we've got is more than welcome.
Other questions? Mr. Knott?
I'm very impressed. It's one of the most positive things we've done, I think, on the board, because we all looked dumbfounded at each other for months, thinking about where we're going to get the $1 million plus to knock that thing down. So it's a very positive use that you've done, Jim. And so my question would be, what do you think the future of Homeland funding is at the federal level? I mean, big build-up after 9/11 in the decade since. Do you anticipate that'll continue, or what's the future look like?
Well, to be perfectly honest, we don't know. We've got an election coming up that's going to be pretty drastic, maybe. Who knows at the end of the day what this is going to be. I sit on just finished a FEMA task force. It's met for the last 6 months to advise the Secretary of Homeland Security and the President and the White House what is needed. Because you recall, all this funding started with terrorism, and then when Katrina happened, they had the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Act that turned it into all hazards. So Homeland Security has become a bigger thing than just anti-terrorism. It really is kind of an all-hazards approach. If you ask Jim Page personally today in my crystal ball, it's going to be probably pretty stable. It's a minuscule slice of the federal budget, and it's not something that they argue about much. They argue about much bigger amounts. $900 million is what they spend on Homeland Security for the states in the United States. And that's, as we all know in the federal budget, that's a minute's worth of operating budget. So I don't see it. How it's distributed among the states, we see more money going to Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, for obvious reasons, California. But Illinois, I know that in our FY11, we're getting the same amount that we got in 10 and 9. It's kind of leveled off. It was really big there in 2002, right after September 11th. And every year it's leveled off, and now it's kind of stable. You've got entrenched bureaucracies. But we're fortunate because our whole motto and our whole operating system is there's not enough for everybody. Everybody can't have a SWAT team. Everybody can't have a hazardous materials team. Let's work together. So as the budget gets reduced, we benefit from that because all of our systems are working together and being more efficient. So I see the future as being pretty bright.
Other questions? Mr. McGinty.
Not really a question, just an affirmation of what Larry talked about. Please go over and see what's happening there. It is amazing. The other thing that I noticed that I think lends itself to future success is the support that Jim gets. I was fortunate enough to see he and his board in action, and he's got a very, very supportive and very impressive board that is quite supportive of their activities. I can't imagine being happier about what's happening in that facility.
Mr. James.
I've got to say something. I've been over there a couple of times. I'm very impressed for the amount of money they spent and the work they did. It's too bad we can't get good deals like that. And I also appreciated walking around when I was in there because I didn't smell the old nursing home. Well, and a couple offices.
Yeah, well.
All right. Thank you, Jim, very much.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Just so happens the next item on our agenda is an amendment to the lease for a regional law enforcement training center between Champaign County and Ilias. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Ms. Cohort, second by Mr. Kurtz. Deb, do you want to explain this?
Effectively, Jim Page came to me just a little over a month ago requesting the ability to extend the term of this lease for another year, which would be for 2013. And this lease, the terms of this lease are identical to the amendment to the lease that you approved last year for the year 2012. There is not an increase in the rent payment, but we increased it substantially last year for the 2012 lease, and it seemed appropriate to maintain it at this rate for a second year in 2013, especially when you consider the advanced value of us getting this money so far in advance of when the term is actually covered. So the request for you this evening, and I would point out Chair Beckett just pointed out to me, in 1E, it is that it would be fully paid by November 30th, 2010, not 2009, obviously.
Mr. McGinty?
I believe I have to abstain, and I think Mr. Sapp as well, because our employer is involved with the business there.
Actually, no, because if Carl gets involved, it would be as a sublessee. So this has nothing to do with whether or not Ilias decides to enter into a separate relationship with Carl. This is a relationship between us and Ilias.
Even better.
You agree? Understand? Yeah? Mr. James?
Question on the hardwire, do we have any estimate of what that may cost us?
Actually, we're including that with our project for the new building in the total project cost, and those costs will be presented. Do you have that cost right now, Alan?
We have broken that down to 3 different lengths of hardwiring it to complete our loop, and I do not remember what the exact cost is for the link between Ilias and 1905, but there will also be other links. The total fiber, I think, was less than $20,000 to link 3 buildings, and that's just one of them.
Thank you.
And we would also let you know that when you're presented with the budget for the new building, we are going to also include cleaning up and finishing some East Campus issues, and that's one of them. So you will see the budget for it before we actually move forward with it.
What, Chair, if I may? Sure. One of the things that we have done is that we're in the process, actually, of putting in a fiber line that bypasses the county loop inside. We're still utilizing and will utilize the county system, but what we wanted to do, because as our IT processing grows, we did not want to negatively impact the county, so we paid for a separate line that went around the county, so we have 2 ways out, so we're not negatively impacting the network traffic that you have here. So that shouldn't be, a big issue, and if there are, we've always talked about how we can help.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C6 to discuss the setting of price for sale or lease of property owned by Champaign County.
So moved.
And I ask that our physical plant director, our recording secretary, and our administrator remain present. And so I'm sorry. Who moved?
Rosales, second.
Okay, Rosales moved, second by Kurtz. Call the roll.
Ammons. Present.
Yes.
Beckett.
Yes.
Benzel.
Yes.
Betts.
Yes.
Cowart. Dennitz. James.
Yes.
Jay.
Yes.
Jones. Knott. Kurtz. Langenheim. McGinty.
Yes.
Michaels. Yes. Mosier. Nudo.
Yes.
O'Connor. Richards. Rosales.
Yes.